This is the continuation to the 100 interview questions for the contract managers in construction industry. Question number 51. How do you handle a client who refuses to sign variation order? You might have seen so many clients in your tenure that they follow this because they are afraid that if they signed it as a variation, before confirming that that's a variation, tomorrow the blame might come to them. So they have to take the responsibility. Only leaders will delay decisions. So only leaders will take decisions immediately. Non-leaders will delay decisions. So someone who is delaying the decision, that we have to ensure that we have to recover it back our rights. So first is, as a contract manager, I keep writing to them regarding the entitlement under the contract, under the rights. And if any delay in the variation order, we have to enforce your interest claims, cost impacts, labor and equipment impacts inside it. If there is no any proper response from the point of contact from the side of the client, then the matter has to be escalated. And if has to be escalated via the dispute resolution mechanisms, like you can start with negotiation, mediation, and then you can hit for the DAB or the arbitrations. Question number 52. How do you ensure project teams stay aligned with the contract? So like we discussed in few points before that, we have to conduct a very frequent sessions to understand them. What is the contract is the only department that starts before the project life cycle time and ends after the project life cycle. But this is not the same for engineering or procurement or construction or any other department in the project. So contracts play a role in each phase of the project. So in each phase of the project, which is the dominating department, right? During engineering, design will be the dominating department. So for the engineering, you have to teach about what are the obligations we have in engineering, what are the time bars we have, what are the consequences we have, what are the liabilities we have. So this has to be transferred to them frequently. So only then these departments will be aware of the contractual obligations and they will reciprocate it to protect the contractual interest of the entire project or the company. How do you prepare a monthly commercial report? I think most companies don't prepare monthly commercial report, and even though they prepare the commercial report, it comes from the project control department, which is not a right approach. The commercial report has to be produced by the cost engineers, and cost engineer has to be vet with the contractual entitlements by the commercial director or the commercial managers. So here, if you are the commercial manager or the contracts manager, you have to give this answer. I summarize the variations, claims, risks, cash flow, and commitments. These are the 5 things, everything comes under this. I update the status of the payment, change orders, and delays. I highlight issues by sending notices, and that requires the management decisions. See, something that this will become big, and management has to know about this. Because as a contracts manager, you will have that instinct. So that has to be sent to them. So I attach clear evidences for major items. The report gives management a precise commercial snapshot. See, management is not interested to see all the technical contractual clauses or jargons. They wanted something very precise and clear. So you have to take that. They are very much worried about the numbers, especially what is the cash flow in and what is the liability we have and what is we are going to lose. For example, if you are speaking about the threat linked with the bank guarantee that we have submitted and that might be invoked at any time. So they will understand the seriousness. So that's how it has to be communicated very precisely, not just panicking them, showing them risk and give you a mitigation actions, what are possible mitigation actions. Question number 54, how do you protect your company from time-barred claims? See, there are time-barred clauses in many structured contracts and also even in bespoke contracts. So when the time bars, you will lose your right to claim. Many jurisdictions in the world allows this, and many jurisdictions in the world that doesn't allow this. But not all the claims and disputes inside the industry is taken to the legal arena or the arbitration arena. 95% of the disputes are solved within the industry. So when it comes to within the industry, the Bible is the contract, and that has to be abided by both the parties. So when you claim more entitlements under the contract, so you have the reverse. When the contract imposes time bar clauses, then you should be very clever about handling it. So first of all, when you get the contract, make a very clear Excel sheet or a track list to show what are the time bar clauses and what are the time bar claims. So once you get such triggers, flag them critical and follow them to finish before the deadlines. How do you evaluate a contract's dispute resolution mechanism? See, every contract has a different dispute resolution mechanism. And most contract managers who doesn't have a very vast experience, they just go think that every contract dispute resolution mechanism is same. I've seen one of our client approached us for a consulting. They said that the dispute resolution is arbitration. And we also were, okay, usually it will be arbitration, only arbitration in the contracts. And after studying the contract, we understand that there is no arbitration clause in the contract. It is in litigation that is under the jurisdiction of Saudi. So you have to be very clear in understanding the dispute resolution mechanism, and you have to follow the pre-steps of the dispute resolution mechanism. Even though if you have litigation, if it asks to go for a mediation, that has to be done properly. So you have to check the governing law, seat, and applicable rules. So I assess the cost and time implication of each step and ensure clauses are fair and balanced. A strong DR mechanism minimizes the litigation risk. So at least if you only have an ADR, you will almost solve most of the issues in the DR, and you will have only core issues that has to be solved by litigation or arbitration. That's fine. How do you ensure accuracy in BOQ based contracts? Even though this is not under the direct power or authority of the contract manager, but if something goes wrong, it falls on the head of the contract manager. So you have to validate the BOQ contracts quantities against the drawing specs and site conditions. You have to check for the missing items, duplications, or unreasonable rates. So then prepare deviations, logs for clarifications, negotiate adjustments if required, and keep contingencies. So accuracy to 100% is not possible. But yes, we can take contingencies and lessons learned. Accuracy of BOQ should increase when you are doing typical projects. If you are repeating a project, then the BOQ accuracy has to increase. But if each project is different and it's difficult to achieve it, so go with the contingency and keep that what else can go wrong and what else can be compensated for it goes wrong. Question number 57, how do you manage contractual obligations during project acceleration? Project acceleration itself is a confusing term, because sometimes contractor call them as acceleration, employer call them as mitigation. So that creates the problem. Even in acceleration, there are two kinds of acceleration. One is constructive acceleration. The other one is directed acceleration. Only directed acceleration, the client confirms that yes, this is an acceleration from my side, so I will pay the amount for acceleration, or there will be an agreement between both of them for the accelerating. But if you think an acceleration, if your client thinks as their mitigation, then the confusion starts already. But start documenting that it is an acceleration, it's not a mitigation. Then negotiate cost, methodology, and program impacts. Protect the entitlements by capturing all relevant instructions. Monitor the progress closely to avoid disputes later. So clear records ensure transparency with the accelerator. Question number 58, how do you handle termination related situations? So there are different terminated related situations, and you have different procedures to follow during each of the terminations. Like if it's a termination due to employee's convenience, that's different. That's a procedure for it. And if the termination is due to force majeure, or the termination is a follow-up on the situation of the suspension. Suspension is going beyond the control, and the contractor or the employer is triggering the suspension, or termination due to default. So these have a different kind of procedure. So first, read the contract and follow the procedures in the contract for the termination. So like joint measurements, cure periods, liabilities, what to do with the PBGs, and what to do with the materials at site, what to do with the scrap. So consolidate everything and submit an termination a report and a claim. And if it is illegal termination, you are eligible for a claim also. So that's a different thing. So advise the management on the risks and the alternatives. So goal is to avoid termination unless it's absolutely necessary. So that should be the objective of a contracts manager. How do you approach drafting commercial terms of new contracts? Usually new contracts, they don't prepare from scratch. The industrial practices just take a similar one, cut, copy, paste, and then move. Or now you have the help of LLMs like ChatGPT that you can go for new contracts. But the AIs are in very preliminary stage that they are not to understand the experienced risk in a typical kind of contracts. So you can get this variation, but to go with the typical kind of contract to draft new contracts, take lessons learned from the previous projects, or have a short interview with the previous project team to know what are the issues they faced, and prepare a contract term that will forecast or protect those issues. So if you have a delay in drawings for a long time, you write that we want the drawing approvals within 28 days, irrespective of the revisions. Because they keep playing with that every revision is 28 days. No contractor can afford 7 revisions for 28 days to complete a project of 2 years. So that protection you can add in your contract. So same in case of subcontract, you can move from a back-to-back class point of view. So allocate risks fairly based on the party capabilities. Parties always think that when we write a one-side contract, we are protected. So putting more clauses like protect, no, that's not the proper way of writing a contract. The proper way of writing the contract is knowing your risk and allocating it fairly, protecting it both the risks. Not just protecting your interest and leaving the other party's interest is not a proper way of contract drafting. You will lose everything when you meet the trial or the tribunal. Because if they found that it's very unfair in risk allocation, then your contract will not have the credibility to fight for other entitlements. So write an ethical, fairly risk allocated contract, and that contract has to protect your interest. That doesn't mean that it has to be one-sided. Both are completely different. So allocate the risk fairly based on the party capabilities and include clear mechanism for resolving disputes. Write strong commercial terms, reducing the ambiguity. Make them very clear. It will automatically become strong. So question number 60, how do you keep yourself updated on contract and legal developments? See, once you enter, we don't learn contracts from the college and enter as contracts manager. We enter as QS, we enter as planning engineers, we enter as project engineers, we enter as procurement engineers. Then as you develop interest in contracts, you move towards contracts. And you upskill yourself with the MRICS, and you upskill yourself with FIDIC knowledge, NEC knowledge, and delay analysis. So you keep upskilling yourself to understand, to go to the top level of the management. Top level of the management is always worried about 2 things. One is money, the other thing is risk. When you understand this both, then you become a best advisor for them as the top manager. So to understand the cost and the risk, you should know what is the contractual liabilities and what are the consequences and how to quantify them. So these things you have to have a large vision, and what are the updates, standardizations happening in the industry. Meet some conferences, get along with like-minded people, get engaged in social media like LinkedIn, to start studying about contracts in the YouTube. and then go for the next level, get for the paid courses, upgrade yourself. Only upgrading is nothing but investing on you. And that is, I have seen companies where a single person's knowledge has recovered the entire EPC company from the risks. So be very careful in hiring such people. Even if you are the interviewer, please ensure that you know these questions so that you can find a good contracts manager and hire them for your purpose. So we still have 40 questions to be covered, and we will be covering that in the upcoming videos. Thank you.